India's most ambitious tax reform, the Goods and Services Tax, was rolled out on the 1st of July 2017. It successfully subsumed over a dozen central and state taxes. In the last 1 year, over 1 crore businesses have registered under the GST, and the average monthly compliance of return filing and tax payment has markedly improved month on month as the government continues to step up scrutiny and enforcement to improve revenue collections. Now, as we head into year 2, it is time to take stock of the journey of this ambitious tax reform. Has the government achieved what it set out to a year ago, the creation of a seamless system that would transform India into a single market for the movement of goods and services? And will the focus going forward be on ensuring a stable e-way bill system, a robust IT infra system and rate rationalization? Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on this edition of Eye on India. I'm Shereen Bhan. Joining me on the show today, Prabhakar Iyer, ED and CFO of Ingram Micro India. Also with us, Harishanker, Subramaniam, partner and national leader, indirect tax, EY India. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the show. Hari, let me start by asking you, no one expected it to be smooth sailing. There have been teething troubles. There have been issues with the infrastructure, specifically the IT infrastructure. There have been issues with refunds and so on and so forth. But on balance, how would you sum up the last 12 months?
Shereen, you first have to keep in perspective the magnitude of this reform. It's actually transformative. If you keep that in perspective, yes, we've had teething problems on compliance, the IT infrastructure, we've had issues on refunds. But in balance, if you really, I've interacted with so many companies across sectors, it's been pretty good, considering the size of our economy and the complexity of our design. Yeah, it's been pretty decent, I would say. Things have stabilized, even the whole return process, the government has been responsive. We've had 27 council meetings, they simplified it, they really truncated the filing, they didn't start matching. So I would say it's stabilized. In the last, I would say 3 to 4 months, the return filings have stabilized, 3B has stabilized. You look at refunds, yes, we had hiccups in refund. Yeah. But if you go by the latest statistics, they seem to have had this refund week and they seem to have pushed through as much as they can. So going forward, I believe all those bunching up that happened will reduce, and I simply feel it will go back to being a pretty normal scenario. And even if you look from a business point of view, companies have started going back to their original growth volumes. You look at retail, you look at FMCG, supply chains have got populated to what it was prior to GST and demo. So things are pretty normal, I would say. And I would say, you look at the Malaysian experience, they're talking of a rollback, comparing that to the size of our country. I don't think we have done badly.
We haven't done badly. Prabhakar, let me ask you, the point of the GST was to create this single market, to do away with the cascading impact of the multiplicity of taxes that we had in India, and also from a business case perspective to improve and enhance operational efficiency. What's been the experience like on the ground for businesses in terms of being able to do exactly that?
Yeah, Shereen, it was really a great experience. In fact, the government bringing in terms of the GST has enabled the business. Actually, as a business enabler, it has been a great experience because the decision making has become speeded up. The movement of goods has become speeded up. Really, it has become one nation, one tax. Even though we have 3 slabs of tax, but actually at least we know what is the rate of tax across the pan-India. It helps the business guys to deal, structure and do the business without any discomfort. So that is a great thing that we have achieved. And in terms of e-way bill coming in and whole check post verifications, all that has gone off, has actually led to efficiency in the movement of goods.
Okay, so you're saying that it has led to efficiency when it comes to the movement of goods. Hari, let's just pick up on that point exactly. On the e-way bill and some of the other pending decisions, return filing, for instance, the simplification is still not done just yet. The hope is that perhaps by the end of the year, we should see that single form coming in. If I were to ask you to evaluate the hits and the misses, what would you put down on the misses side, areas where more work is required?
So one is the return simplification, like you rightly said, likely to be unveiled somewhere in December or maybe January. So once they get that right, and I believe invoice matching is critical for the entire system of transaction reporting. So once they get that right, I think that issue will be out of the way as far as compliance is concerned, because the basic compliance of filing your GST R1 and 3B anyway continues in a smooth manner. The second fact is you already are seeing improvements in collections thanks to the entire e-way bill implementation. So e-way bill has stabilized. I have not heard of any problems on e-waybill. So e-waybill by and large seems to have stabilized. So that itself will show some fillip in revenue. You saw April numbers coming in at 94,000 crores.
Yeah.
My sense is, if not in the next 2 months, at least in 3 months from now, this number could inch beyond the 100,000 crore mark, which is what is the number that they would like to hear as far as this fiscal is concerned. You look at rates itself, they've had tweaks. There have been roughly more than 250 line items where rates have been tweaked. The 28% category has come down to just about 50, 60 items, which also I'm sure they will address once they see some buoyancy in revenues. Expansion of base. Already for the July 19th meeting, there are conversations of petroleum products like ATF, natural gas. At least the discussions have started. Will they happen on that day? Will only natural gas happen, or both will probably come a little later depending on how the revenue numbers are, is something we don't know. But by and large, now going forward, my view is they will do tweaks in law.
Okay.
They will try and bring this National Advance Ruling Authority, because you're seeing a spate of rulings coming from various states, which could be a problem. You don't want to get into another litigious reform. So they will bring in that. They will probably try and tweak rates. I don't know whether on the 19th July meeting or the next meeting.
Well, the meeting has now been pushed to the 21st, I believe.
21st is what I heard. So it depends, what the numbers are. So we'll have to wait and see what the main numbers are to get a sense of what they will do.
Well,
but they will do it.
Well, the CBIC chief, Vanaja Sarna, on CNBC TV 18 yesterday said that yes, there is a need for rate rationalization, but the government shouldn't be in a hurry, or the GST Council shouldn't necessarily be in a hurry to do that. Let the revenue stabilize, was the perspective. But let's bring in Manish Sinha also into the conversation, the Joint Secretary of the Tax Research Unit of the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. Manish, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. We are assessing the impact of the rollout of the goods and services tax. Let me put to you some specific concerns that have been raised, Manish. One has been a consistent criticism that's coming from the former Finance Minister, Mr. Chidambaram, on the use of the GSTR 3B. In fact, to quote him, how long can the government use the temporary form GSTR 3B? Is it legally valid? Can you explain what is the government's response to Mr. Chidambaram's claim, which he's been making for the last few days?
Any return on the basis of which the taxes are being collected is legally valid return. As far as GSTR 3B is concerned, before notifying the return, all due diligence from the perspective of law was taken. Ministry of Law was consulted. Therefore, to say that this is a temporary return and government perhaps can't continue with this may not be legally very tenable. As far as we are concerned, we are very confident that GSTR 3B stands on a firm legal footing. So GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 combination as a return will continue till the new return gets implemented. That's how I see it, and I do not see any legal difficulty in doing so. But this is for the government to respond. You don't see any legal difficulty with GSTR 3B? Comment as to...
no, I understand. You're giving us your opinion on why you believe that...
I was part...
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you, Manish, about when we can, in fact, see this new simplified return form. There was a GOM that was set up. We are given to understand that the government is looking at the possibility of the new form coming in perhaps by the end of the year. Realistically, given where things stand today, when should we expect that?
I would say that in the last GST Council meeting, the overall structure of the return was approved. Detailing of the return forms, etc., is going on, and at that point Council had indicated 6 months' time. So I would expect sometime towards between October and December you can see the rollout of the form. Much before that, in days to come, sometime around Council meeting, you may get to see the form coming in public domain, but Council has the first right over it. So as and when the Council gives approval, or the GIC, which is a subordinate officers body, when the Council is not meeting, has seen the form and has kind of cleared it, public will also get to see it, trade will also get to see it. So I see sometime around October or so when the new form will come. It is one form a month. That is how it would be.
One form a month, and you're saying that the expectation is that by October we should see the form being at least put out into the public domain, if not rolled out itself. More clarifications that I have that I would like to get from...
No. Public,
yes.
No, public, it will come in... It will come in public domain much earlier. What I am saying is firmly in place.
Okay.
Return getting filed and tax getting collected through the new return will happen sometime in September, October. That's what my assessment would be.
Okay, September, October for the new form on the basis of which return filing will take place. Manish, let me also put to you questions around, GST 2.0 now and what we can expect in terms of further legislative changes. In fact, let me quote to you the letter from the Punjab Finance Minister Manpreet Badal to the Finance Minister Piyush Goyal, and he's basically suggesting that the proposed changes in law should be put in public domain first. The final draft should be circulated to states at least once a month in advance for their perspective, and basically saying that a constitution of a subcommittee of a group of ministers should facilitate the next round of legislative changes when it comes to the GST law. What can we expect now by way of legislative changes, and how soon do we see this process taking off?
See, the question is very wide. I'll put it like this, that there would be few legislative changes which are in the nature of simplifying the compliance procedure or clarifying the law or minor irregularities or gaps in law to be plugged. Those kind of changes are minor, but if you're looking at major structural change, perhaps the Honorable Minister from Punjab was referring to that, and in that perhaps the procedure which he was suggesting would be the indicative procedure. But at any rate, any legal change has to first get the approval of the GST Council. Council has the first right over that. And we do expect that, if you have seen the post rollout of GST, one thing which has been actively done by the government and the officials concerned is that wherever there has been problem, we have tried to respond as quickly as we can. Many of the problems are of the nature where some tweaking in law is needed. Those are the kind of areas we would like to do as early as possible, so that any difficulty in which state still feels, or clarification in law which they think the grey area should be removed, those are the kind of things we would like to do as early as possible, subject to approval of the Honorable GST Council. That's how it would be.
Okay. Hari, the key amendments that you would expect now, the key clarifications that you would expect now as we kickstart the second-year journey?
So one is this return simplification itself, and there are various other small tweaks, like Manish rightly mentioned, which could probably be first blessed by the council on the 21st, which is probably the new date of the council meeting, and then you have the monsoon session coming up, So probably some of those amendments which could be moved in this session, because you have a window from 18th July, I think 18th July till 18th of August. So I think they will do that. There are a host of things. I mean, it's difficult to really enumerate as to what could be the priority, but some tweaks which will be required, they'll try and do as early as possible. One thing which I would say we would like to see, or the industry would like to see, is this entire conversation which has started on the National Advance Authority Constitution. Because I don't know what Mr. Sinha has to say on that, but that is something which the industry would like to see, because you are seeing a spate of advance rulings coming from various jurisdictions, and you really don't want any conflicts to emerge, and litigation to start all over again.
Mr. Sinha, is that a realistic expectation? As Hari pointed out, this is feedback that we're getting as well, that this is an irritant and a cause for concern. Can we expect movement on this front?
I would say that the law committee is seized of the issue. Please understand that unlike Service Tax or Central Excise Act, which was a Union Government's Act, GST is a federal law, and therefore many of the procedures are driven by the federal polity. And that is why the Advanced Ruling Authority was also constituted at the state level, and First Appellate Authority is also at the state level. Be that as it may, we are aware that there are conflicting advance rulings which are coming at places, and the issue is at active consideration in the law committee as to how to create a mechanism whereby at least we can resolve these conflicting decisions and the trade has a uniform interpretation from the advance ruling at the appellate stage. Yes, it is under consideration, but it will be difficult for me to give a clear framework or timeline.
Okay, but it is clearly a priority area that the GST Council as well as the Law Committee is looking into at this point in time, acknowledging the fact that this is proving to be a concern and an irritant. We are going to take a break, gentlemen, but stay on with us. You're watching Eye on India as we assess the hits and misses of the GST rollout in year one.